Hawkesbury motorcycle. My name is Phil Ecob, and you will rarely see me on this side of the camera. On this occasion, however, there are a few things that I need to clarify and explain. Adam and Julie Layton of APL Performance Bikes and the new owners of Hawkesbury Motorcycles in Macquarie Street, Windsor, have for the past 12 months, or thereabouts, spread many malicious and false accusations about myself. They would have you believe that I am a mentally ill, homeless person with no money, who goes from shop to workshop, offering to do promotion for people in return for, and I quote, free stuff. They would also have you believe that they took me in, fed me, and helped me get my licence. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'm a self-funded retiree. I receive no government benefit, no pensions, no benefits of any kind. I accept nothing from those that I do promotion for, and if it's offered, I decline it. I have written evidence, voice recordings, and evidence to substantiate everything that I'm about to tell you. Over a year ago, I accompanied Luke Mills from Walker to APL in South Windsor to collect 2 Indian challenges that Luke had placed there in excess perhaps of 9 months, one longer than the other, in order to have them dyno-tuned. When he collected them, he was grossly dissatisfied with what he found. As a result, Luke posted, quite accurately, his assessment of the bikes and his great displeasure at what had transpired with his bikes, both the length of time, the fact that one had virtually no oil in it, yet they claimed to have dyno-tuned it, and the warning lights and the lack of performance in the other bike. The past 12 months approximately that I had been promoting APL, for free I might add, I had seen people on occasion who had expressed displeasure at their experience at APL, and it was not an uncommon thing for these people to be branded by Adam as mentally ill. Probably far simpler than replying to the actual issue. Knowing this and expecting a similar response targeted toward Luke and his posts on social media, once I saw what he'd written and the videos that he'd posted, I immediately put up a supporting post simply stating that I had been there and I'd witnessed the condition of the bikes. I'd witnessed the extraordinarily loud noise that came from the bike that had virtually no oil at all in it, and substantiated that Luke was in fact telling the truth. The moment I spoke up in support of Luke, this is when the attacks on me began, full on. Some people were even told that what was happening with Luke's complaint about his Indian challenges that were allegedly dynoed, that were a disaster, is a product of he and I, who he described as 2 mentally ill people, and when 2 mentally ill people get together, this is the end result. This is what Adam and Julie do when they are confronted with criticism. I have been contacted by multiple people who are too afraid to speak up, but will speak to me, who have been intimidated and vilified, some even losing employment, because they have fallen foul of Adam and Julie Layton at APL. In my opinion, this is how Adam and Julie intimidate people and ensure that they don't have the courage to speak up. It's just not worth it for them. And people see what happens when somebody does speak up, and it ensures their silence when they are wronged. I have, however, fared far better than Luke Mills. Luke far better than Luke Mills. Luke, some weeks after expressing his displeasure on social media at the treatment he had had at APL and what he considered to be a distinct lack of results, and he posted online to that effect, it would have been weeks that went by before, I guess, in my opinion, Adam probably realised that it had had an effect on his business perhaps, and that people actually believed Luke and not him. This is when Adam went into his local police station weeks after the event and made a complaint in order to try and get an AVO issued against Luke for allegedly, falsely I might add, because I was there, allegedly making death threats against he and his family, harm on his employees, etc., etc. All of this was dismissed by the police officer, who explained, as far as I'm aware, that I guess you're about 470 kilometres from Luke. It's about 6 hours or thereabouts travel, I would imagine, with a stop for fuel. And you haven't heard from Luke in quite some time. I haven't heard from him since the day. You cannot have your AVO. This didn't stop Adam. Miraculously, Adam decided to go back in the next morning to the same police station. And of course there was a different officer on, and I'm not casting any aspersions, but apparently it was viewed in a very different light suddenly, and he was granted a temporary AVO until such time as it got to a court and was decided. And the police volunteered to pursue it on Adam's behalf, as far as we know. What a difference. Luke Mills was then dragged through the court system for approximately 12 months. 6 court appearances, 2 of those in Windsor, where his brief from Tamworth had to travel with him at expense all the way to Windsor from Tamworth on the last 2 occasions to be in attendance just in case the case went ahead. On the date of the final court hearing in Windsor, Adam and Julie, via the prosecutor, made many proposals to Luke via his solicitor in order to negotiate a settlement prior to going into court. They even got to the extent, the desperate attempt, that they offered Luke, if you plead guilty and accept an AVO for the period of only 1 month, then we can all walk away. Luke, of course, at the advice of his solicitor and, of course, myself, because I knew the full story, the prosecutor was informed that we would rather go in, Luke would rather go in, I should say, with his solicitor, and I was more than happy to give evidence of what happened, and we would fight this because the allegations were entirely false. He wouldn't be accepting any of this. Once they were told this, and they realised that Luke would not be bluffed, they dropped all allegations and instructed the prosecutor that they would not be proceeding. How surprising. When it was time to put your evidence on the table, to put up or shut up, they walked away. But before they did, once again, money reared its ugly head. And they stipulated only if Luke promises not to pursue us for costs, the enormous costs that it had cost him. Not only the cost of finances, not only dollars, But during this entire 12 months, Luke's beautiful wife, Tammy, only 32 years of age, who had been diagnosed, and Adam and Julie fully understood the repercussions of this. They understood what had happened with her and her health. That didn't bother them. They pursued Luke for 12 months. Tammy had been diagnosed as inoperable complications from endometriosis, and she would die a very painful and early death. She is on pain management. She works hard in their business, the Walker Caravan Park, tremendous business. Luke, Tammy, and their young daughters, they all work hard. Not only that, but on one occasion, on one of the court dates, when Luke was forced with these false and vindictive allegations,
"You are enough. Dear person behind me, the world is a better place with you in it."
to appear in court, beautiful young Tammy had to travel to see a specialist, accompanied by one of her teenage daughters, who sat with her mum so that she would not be alone when the specialist in his rooms explained to Tammy that not only was the endometriosis going to end her life early, but that they had found several tumours on Tammy's brain that were also inoperable. You carry that burden around just because they didn't want to admit they stuffed up. The truth is that instead of doing all of this, instead of all of the animosity, of all of the drama about Luke's bikes and what they did or did not do, on the day that Luke walked in to APL to collect his bikes, if they'd been honest enough to say, "Luke, we stuffed up, mate. There's a problem. We haven't managed to give you what we said we would give you." Luke, knowing Luke, his first impulse would have probably, most likely in my opinion, have been to embrace them and feel sorry for the fact that they'd spent time and effort and been unsuccessful. He wouldn't have paid them for work they hadn't done. Luke's no fool when it comes to money. His money is for his wife and his children. They are his priorities. But he would have felt really bad for them, and he would not have criticised them in any way, shape or form. He would most likely have hugged them both and felt terrible on their behalf. But no, they couldn't do that. It's the old APL attitude that I experienced in my experience there over about a 12-month period or thereabouts. Never admit fault. Never. I will be doing another video, and that video will be